Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass. Thank you for watching this Ag Forecast brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Let's take a look back at our last week. We know we've been talking about some onshore flow that's been happening out here out west, bringing in quite a bit of coastal precipitation, seeing some snows in the higher elevations, and so this is verified quite nicely from our model forecasts. We also knew that we had a couple of systems that were going to be going through the eastern part of the Corn Belt and also way down here in the south, really bringing quite a bit of precipitation. So I'm overall been quite impressed with the model's ability to kind of pick up on these systems over the last couple of weeks. So the thing is, we know we're pretty dry right here in the center part of the United States, and some parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, as we've been talking about so much lately, have missed out on rain, and snow going way back in October. So the question is we've been discussing this pattern change. We've had some milder days for the second half of January, but we picked up a couple of weeks ago on this signal that potentially we're going to get another shift where we're going to get some cold air, and so I want to show you the latest kind of evolution of that. So the animation you're watching here takes you out 10 days, and it's just every 6 hours showing you the temperature anomalies. Those are differences from normal. What we really see here is that by the time we get into Thursday, the colder air is already starting to advance through the northern interior states. So this is really getting to the Corn Belt. We've already got wind chill advisories going up in parts of the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. And what you're going to notice here is that the pattern is going to establish itself such that we get a pretty decent ridge developing out west, keeping them very warm, and a broader trough over the next, we can probably call this the next 10 to maybe 15 days, that establishes here over the north of the Great Lakes, but really centered over the Hudson Bay. So we get these pulses of cold air. So this is the one coming in Friday. I mean, look at this. This makes it all the way down to the kind of Gulf Coast, East Coast, and then we get a system that's going to try to come through. We'll talk about that in a second. But then another pulse of cold air. Watch, there comes the next one like that. So any sort of reprieve we might see in terms of temperatures for the kind of the end of our weekend coming up, it's going to be accompanied with quite a bit of precip. We'll talk about that in a moment. Cold air behind that. And look at this. I'm getting out into Tuesday, the 6th, and we see another shot of this coming in. So it'll be really kind of interesting to see what the groundhog says about all this, because we're going to, of course, yank that large rat out of its cage in a couple of days and get its opinion on the upcoming spring. We'll talk more about that in the video on Sunday just for the fun of it. So this is the pattern change we've been talking about. This is going to put us back into, we'll call this round 2 of winter coming up. But the big question is what are we doing in terms of precip? We've been talking quite a bit about how the Ohio River Valley was really set up this winter to be quite active in terms of weather systems. So I'm going to show you kind of the 4-panel look at what we're expecting to happen with the next 3 systems. Really, we're going to hammer the next 2, but there's 3 coming. So here it is. This is starting us off 6 a.m. on Thursday. So we've already got the wind chill warnings way up here in the far northern parts of the Corn Belt, but you see the broad trough coming in, really quite a broad trough. So the question is how do things evolve over the coming days to really kind of make for some interesting weather in the second part of our weekend? So we kind of step through here. Let's get us get through here into parts of Friday. So as the trough digs, you can see we have the shortwave right out ahead of it. We're going to be supporting some lifting of some air in the lower atmosphere, and so we're going to be watching this area on Friday. Could be some mountain snows here in parts of the Appalachian Mountains. Some certainly at lower elevation. We're going to be getting rain out of this because we still haven't quite pulled in all the cold air yet. But middle of the week in the Midwest, we really warmed up. I mean, relatively speaking, we got up into the mid-40s, but the cold air is really going to dig in behind this trough. So this is what things look like, Thursday getting into early Friday morning. Now, as Friday arrives, we see a big dome of higher atmospheric pressure move in here. Look at the cold air contained in that. So Friday, we got a second day in a row of colder weather across the Corn Belt. But the big concern is what ends up happening by the time we get into Sunday. And here's what we're watching. It doesn't look like much, but see this little shortwave here? Got a little bit of a vorticity max coming over the mountains. We can kind of see it reflected here in the lower level height field. Well, what's going to happen is with time, that little vort max is going to kind of swing through, right in through here. That's going to help to develop a low pressure center. But before that even gets going, we did have a bigger area of high pressure pulling in some moisture into the lower and mid Mississippi River Valley. And that moisture in place is what we're going to lift into the atmosphere. That's going to make for some interesting weather by the time we get into late Saturday, early Sunday. So watch this. By the time we get into, this is of course 12 a.m. on Sunday morning, the GFS model is basically going to be pulling in that vort max right into basically this area. We'll call this Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri, and right out ahead of that, we're going to have our best support. So the models are projecting across the eastern part of the Corn Belt. So Illinois getting through parts of India and Ohio, this area will be cold enough to support snow as we kind of lift that warm air out ahead of this and wrap it around on the backside of the cold here. We're going to get some nice upper level support for this, partly coming from this jet streak, but really the curvature in the flow here. And as we kind of vector move move that vorticity pattern through. Looks like it'll be warm enough to be getting precip, though, most of Kentucky, Tennessee, and points to the south there. So the southeast is going to get a soaking out of this. But this could be round one of snow that goes across the Ohio River Valley. So you see that system pull north, bring snow all the way from basically Ohio to Maine. Now, it does not look like right now as the coastal areas, the big kind of metropolitan areas here are going to be getting a lot of snow out of this. But very cold air comes sinking in behind this in that trough. And then we got to watch this again. So on Monday, now this is where we have some pretty major model divergence. In other words, the U.S. model is saying one thing, the European model is saying another. We'll detail that out for you in a second. But the second system, according to the GFS, takes shape right in through here. So see another shortwave comes through, kind of rounding the larger base of that bigger trough. And as that shortwave comes through, watch what it wants to do here. Digs right in into the lower Mississippi River Valley, mid-Mississippi River Valley, right in through there. See the vortmax? That's going to be lifting this air pretty strongly here. So the storm track is going to go in this direction. And all points north of that are going to have enough cold air to potentially make for another big snow event. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't have any confidence. I have no confidence in this right now. And the reason why is because when I look at all the different ensemble members, because the GFS runs 21 different times here, they bounce this particular system all over the place, which means we haven't yet fully captured the wave way upstream of this just yet. So we got to watch. We got to keep a close eye on this as time goes on. So this is the second system coming in Tuesday of next week. And so if the model, nails this, this is a very, very big snowfall event that goes through parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Again, that's round 2. So we got to watch this. This one, again, very, very low confidence. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this anyway, what you're about to see. But remember, when we watch this, we need to know that beyond about day 5, I really lose confidence in the model. It's the total accumulated snowfall map. And there you go. This gets us out 10 days. Now, what I do like about this is each one of those systems as they come through, putting down this snow in parts of Idaho, Montana, parts of Wyoming. This is pretty robust in different model simulations. And also this snow swath coming through parts of South Dakota with that cold air, parts of Nebraska. It's what happens with the second system and then the third system going through the Ohio River Valley here that I don't have much confidence in. So let me show you what I mean. This is again Thursday. Look at this. By the time we get into Friday, we already start to see the snows coming in here Friday into Saturday. So this is now getting us into start of Saturday and Sunday. So the first system, this is now Sunday, is going right along through here like we just saw. So this is a couple of inches of snow. Okay, we're not talking about major snowfall amounts at this point. Maybe some higher elevation regions could be getting more, but this is a decent snowfall for a region that's kind of gotten rid of their snow over the last few days with some warmer temperatures. So you can see what the models do agree on is the bigger snow is kind of going up here the east coast, or not the east coast, but the interior of the northeast, not so much along the coastal areas. So then what you're going to notice is here comes the next round. So I'm agreeing with this. The bigger snows we're going to see in Montana, but then it's what happens with the system beyond there. And the big differences are in the position of the trough. The U.S. model has it digging right in through here. The European model has it much farther to the south. And so that changes the position where the heavy precip is going to be. So we got to keep an eye on this. I want you to know we're watching it carefully. Of course, our weekend update will have this sucker pinned down to be able to tell you what it's going to do for the start of next week. But here's what I mean. This is the 10-day outlook from Wednesday from the European model. And look, yeah, we're okay with the snow going through the northeast. There's quite a lot of model agreement, but notice the difference right in through here. See, look, big snows out here in Montana. The models are in agreement. We see that same snow swath coming down into this region, but it's going to be that next system that's going to try to take off in through here. The European model has it much farther to the south, timed a little bit differently, whereas the GFS really dumps in through this area. But the GFS has been bouncing around a lot with this. It doesn't yet fully have the wave captured as it's way out in the Pacific right now. So I want to bring this all to your attention so that you're watching it very carefully. The potential is there, but we have to kind of see the timing of each one of these events. I'll tell you this, what the models do agree on though is the cold. The cold is coming back, so get ready for that. Okay, let's turn our attention now to South America because that's going to be our biggest weather story right now when we're talking about moving ag markets. So let me show you the last week. We need to see this because we've kind of moved into a regime where we're getting the monsoon really getting active again in Brazil, but there's been a few instances of some precip moving through parts of the major growing regions down here in Argentina. So let's watch this together. Let's keep our eye right now on Argentina. So see the monsoon going up here in Brazil. Look, we have a few times over the last 7 days where rain did come in and kind of spread very quickly. Doesn't look like a lot, but did spread. There you go. Spread through parts of Argentina's growing regions. Now, is it enough rain to kind of outdo some of the drier patterns they had? No. It was really one day that we saw halfway decent precip coming through parts of Cordoba and parts of Buenos Aires province, but it wasn't the all-out soaker. Where the soaker is happening is way up here, and that's why when we look longer term here, this is the next 10 days forecast by the GFS. This is the same story we've been telling. Right now we have a few major things going on that have really allowed for the monsoonal circulation to strengthen. What's going on right here across the big area where we talk about El Nino, La Nina? We've seen a few what we call westerly wind bursts that are occurring. Plus, in addition to that, the Madden-Julian oscillation, the MJO, is moving through phases 7, 8, maybe back into phase 1. And the translation of that is that tends to produce, it's historically correlated well with the strengthening of the monsoonal circulation. But it also means that it tends to move north into this area, drying out Brazil's southern growing regions and Argentina. And that's what you see here in the longer range projections by the GFS. We have some pretty good model agreement in this as well. So this is what we have to deal with when that whole flow pattern sets up. Just like when it's summertime for us in the Corn Belt, a ridge ends up developing in the flow of the jet stream. So this is a ridge, what a ridge looks like if you are in Argentina. And now that ridge here means that we don't have a trough. We don't have this feature to bring in cold fronts that bring in the precipitation in through here. So what do we expect? Well, with any ridge, we know there's going to be heat. So we're going to look at the heat in just a few moments, and it's going to shut off the precip. This is what I'm talking about. Here's the next 10 days as forecast by the ECMWF ensemble. And when we look at this, the model is very much in agreement of the strengthening of the circulation here, dumping a lot of rain during harvest time right into this area. Drying out substantially, Mato Grosso do Sul, getting into Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul, down into Uruguay. So this area, very dry next 10 days. So that's an important kind of flip-flop to see here as we moved into harvest in the northern part and start preparing for it down here in the southern part. But notice this, get down into Argentina. Let's zoom down there. We're picking up on that drier pattern. And it's something to be on the lookout for over the next 10 days. Now, I want to also tell you that in addition to this dry pattern, because no cold fronts are going to be coming through due to that ridge, we're going to see some warmer than average temperatures. So I apologize that this animation is bouncing around, but you're going to get the idea anyway. When I created it real quick tonight, I wanted you just to see the kind of the big picture. Now, let's go back to the beginning of it. What you see here with time is that where that ridge gets established right down here, so the ridge is here, look at the above average temperatures we continually see down here in Argentina. So we're talking about temperatures going to be cranking up here, maybe into the upper 90s, triple digits at times. You really see some warm conditions, and they don't relent. You notice how I just keep going through and forward in time here. We're all the way now into Tuesday of next week. We just continue to see the warm anomalies. Now, we do see a breakdown in everything, getting us all the way out to around the 10th. See the cold coming in? That is a cold front that's right now being projected for the 10th or the 9th or 10th of February, which means it's so far out into the future. We're just not 100% sure if this is going to really evolve this way. There's a lot of things that could push this to go through, which would bring in some precip, but they've got 10 days of dry conditions and 10 days of some temperature stresses. So there's a lot to be watching right now in Argentina as these less than ideal weather conditions come through, and a lot of things in the atmosphere, a lot of circulations are actually working together to make this happen. Soaking them in Brazil, drying out in southern Brazil and in Argentina. That's kind of the big story I want you to get out of the end of this talk. So be paying close attention to the weather for the next few days if you're watching this in the U.S., especially if you're in the Ohio River Valley. And again, I'll give you an update on Monday morning, late Sunday night, early Monday morning, as to what I see in terms of that second system coming through probably on Tuesday of next week, causing some problems. But until then, keep a close eye on it, and I'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Monday. To get morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows you a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for a free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield Program or for growers working with AD merchandisers. Thanks again. We'll talk to you again on Monday.